Today's episode of Wine Time Fridays is brought to you in part by our friends at Kestrel Vintners, Terraza, Waterfront Grill, and Epsom Cellars.
It's been a long week, right? Are you ready to wind down? Why not? It's time for the Wine Time Fridays podcast with Shelley and Phil. Neither are sommeliers, but both have a deep passion for life, each other, and of course, delicious wine. And now, here to talk about this week over a glass of wine is Shelley and Phil. It's wine time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Wine Time Fridays with Shelley and Phil, less Shelley. I am flying solo today. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not happy about it. I'm really disappointed. But I will pivot and move forward because I have got a guest today that I know will hold up this podcast episode because I don't have the ability to do it my own. It is Friday, March 21st, episode 257. There is no Shelley to ring the wine bell, so I will do it with two.
Yay!
Oh, I would like to welcome Susan Brown, the general manager with Dineen Vineyards out of Zillah, Washington. And I know Zillah is in a place that is really kind of spectacular. We're going to get into that a little bit. But Susan, welcome to Wine Time Fridays.
Well, thank you, Phil. I'm pleased as punch to be here. And any chance I get to chat with somebody about wine is a win.
You know, last week we had Cinda Allen with Idaho Wine Merchant, and same thing. You know, people in the wine business, they really do enjoy talking about wine. If you don't like talking, you're probably not going to be great in the wine business unless you're like, you know, a winery owner or even winemakers. They like to blab on about their craft. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just a great industry that
it is.
I into.
We tend to be quite passionate about the product and about the process and about our place specifically because we are unique in that we are completely 100% estate grown, and we are also certified twice in sustainability. So you need to be quite passionate to do what we do.
Yeah, and the whole idea with the sustainability aspect, we're huge fans of it. I think, aren't you like one of only a handful, maybe even only one in the Rattlesnake Hills AVA that is sustainable, or are there a few more?
Well, that's a great question, Phil, because we actually feel like we're leading the charge in sustainability with our partners across the valley and across the vineyard to Mountain. And we are pioneers in this little area and neck of the woods. We do have quite a bit of focus in the Yakima Valley entirely on sustainability. There are certain areas and pockets that are more focused than others. But we value the land, and we value what the certification of sustainability just puts a rubber stamp on the practices that we would keep anyway. So,
sure.
Mm-hmm.
I did in the last probably 45 minutes leading up to this, I always do a little bit more intense deep dive to get anything at the front of my brain. So I will forget it if I don't do it right up against when we start recording. And all of a sudden I noticed all these things, like I've never heard of the Hills organization. That's Rattlesnake Hills. Mm-hmm. And I really find that really interesting, all of that stuff. I've got, like in my notes, the unique terroir of Rattlesnake Hills AVA is found nowhere else in the world, and the presence of calcium carbonate, locally known as, is it caliche?
Caliche. Mm-hmm.
Caliche further enhances the soil's richness, diversity, and aids in maintaining acidity in the fruit late into the growing season, contributing to the freshness of the wines. I love that because every terroir has their little niche, things going for them and profile. But this one sounds very interesting. I'm going to open this bottle, and then I would love for you to talk a little bit more about the Rattlesnake Hills AVA.
Oh, woo, that sounds
timing.
fabulous. Well,
timing.
I am pleased as punch to talk about the Rattlesnake Hills AVA, and the Hills specifically is an organization headed by my my compadre and Marissa Dineen, so second generation winemaker here at Dineen Vineyards, vintner and owner. So her dad started, was really wanting to retire to a place that had a vineyard, and was looking from Seattle where they would drive to Walla Walla. And this property became available, and they jumped on it. Marissa now managing it for Pat and Lainey Dineen. And you have brought up a great subject. The uniqueness of this area is just so special. And some people say Kalish, some people say Kalichi, but there's a real unique terroir accompanied by an elevation of 1,300 foot elevation, which, for perspective, Red Mountain Vineyard is 450 foot. So I'm not sure if they even call themselves.
Isn't it funny? Red Mountain, you expect a mountain, and it's pretty flat, isn't it?
It is a little bit of a hill. I'll give them that, but I'm not sure that they can call themselves a mountain.
Change the name to Red Hill.
Yeah, but it's also unique because of our diurnal temperature shift. We get temperatures that are so vastly different from day to night. And there are some varietals or types of wines that just groove and find so much happiness in not only the elevation, but the diurnal temperature shift. And then to have that drainage and that wonderful soil to boot is just, it's a ding, 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 is what I like to say.
We have had diurnal shift as a wine words of the week. Why don't you explain a little bit more about that? Because it's really kind of a fascinating part of the whole idea of terroir, because terroir isn't just the soil. It's everything from wind, sun angle. It is soil in those components as well, but also those temperature shifts, because when you have a big swing like that, how does that affect the fruit? When you say a big and I can never say it.
Diurnal temperature shift. Yeah. So what happens is we can go from 40 degrees overnight to 80 degrees during the day. I mean, we can go a 20-degree shift. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. 20 to 30 degrees we've experienced snow on the barrels on the crush pad, and then you're in your sundresses in the middle of the day, and then you go back and the layers come back on. So how it affects,
all about layers.
Yeah, it's all about layers. Exactly right. How it affects the fruit is that the fruit has the benefit, like most every other region, of having the wonderful sunshine and the heat units and all of the things that come from a warm temperature that just brings out the flavor, brings out the sugars, brings out the goodness in the wine. And then in the evening, the wine gets to rest. So think about it this way, Phil. If you were in a place that was hot during the day, and then you did not get to cool off in the evening, you don't get a lot of rest. You don't get a lot of recovery time. But these grapes get to just grow and come into their own during the day, and then they just relax 100% at night, and it just solidifies all the growth that happens during the day. So it's a really fascinating process where, you have areas like, say, Napa or which would be akin to the aforementioned red. And that would be the same, almost the same kind of temperature. It doesn't really get that super big shift. It doesn't get the cool evenings, but it does hold the sugar, hold the acidity, and just hold all the goodness in the.
Kind of locks that in a little bit, doesn't it?
It does. It locks it in and also provides a lot of rest. So it works well for us.
Well, I just opened a 2023 Dineen Vineyards Sémillon, $27 at the winery. And so we are going to do a Wine Time Fridays toast, even though Shelley's not here, to health, wealth, and abundance, gratitude, romance, and as Shelley would say, peace on earth.
Oh, cheers. That's something we can all get behind. Cheers to us all.
So I've been smelling this for probably 5 minutes, and it's really mineral forward. Is that what I'm getting?
That's what I get. I think you're onto something there. This has been a very interesting wine. And when I say interesting, I feel like it's been extremely dynamic. It's really changed from pre-bottling to post-bottling. And even today, every week, it's not every week I open this wine, to be honest, but every time I do open the wine, I'm stunned by how much it's shifted in the bottle. So this wine was 6 months. The cooperage, or the way we made the wine, is 6 months on neutral French oak. And Sémillon is a Bordeaux white wine. So like Chardonnay, its cousin, it can tend to need a lot of something, either time in barrel or time in bottle, under the house, as my Grand-Pierre would say. And so it needs a little bit of time. This has not had a lot of it, but it is coming into its own. I think what I'm getting right now, beyond the minerality, which like you, Phil, it did hit me first and foremost, I'm starting to get some fruit notes that would almost like an underripe peach, almost like a tiny bit of Granny Smith, which would make sense because at first, initially, it was giving me a lot of Vino Verde vibes, which is very green.
And I love Vino Verde.
I do too.
Can we just say there are so many white wines out there, and Sémillon being one of them, that people just go to the Chards and the Sauvignon Blanc. I guess some that have a little bit further on their wine path, Rieslings, right? And maybe a Chenin Blanc, but Sémillon, Vino Verde, Albarino, even like Gourds, and these are such different and dynamic white wines that Roussan, that you break out on the days that are right around the corner, the nice sunny days. I won't be wearing a sundress, but I'll be in shorts and a t-shirt. And and I mean, I think that the term porch pounder gets a bad rap because it implies you're just like drinking out of the bottle. And I take it as it's very easy drinking on a nice sunny day when you're with friends, whether you're in a boat, on the dock, in the backyard, on the deck, the patio. Just so easy to drink, and they all bring a little different flavor to your glass,
They do indeed. And, interesting and unique. I had dinner with a winemaker, a local winemaker here in town. We were at a wonderful restaurant here in town, and I was picking his brain, as I tended to do, until I saw his eyes cross, and then I laid off. But he was telling me that and I found this to be shocking and interesting, but winemakers really think that white wine is almost, in a lot of ways, more difficult to craft than red wine, because
you can hide things in a red wine, right?
I know. I was really shocked by that. So when I pressed him further, he said, well, think about it. You don't have as much time typically. in the cooperage
Right.
or the way the wine was made. You don't have the value of time. You don't have a lot of things that you can add to. And it also has a tell. So it's very much it's not a poker face. What you see is what you get. So you have this this white wine that people undervalue, in my humble opinion, because they don't see how much it takes to craft
Yeah.
a really lovely white wine. But to comment on the porch pounder comment, which the kids say, the thing about our white wines here at Dineen, I feel like they're on the knife's edge of, as you say, the wine glass that you can just drink on a sunny evening and enjoy without
Mhm.
food, and then the wines that you are meant to pair with. So they're hearty enough and have enough backbone that you can pair them with food, but they don't they're not so hearty that you're just
Sure.
with a real rich Chardonnay. I am always having I need some pasta, I need some Alfredo sauce, but
Something creamy, right?
something to rise up
Yeah.
and meet these intense flavors. But because of the delicate nature of Sémillon and the way this was crafted, it can go either way, and so it's a lovely versatile white wine.
And by the way, the mouthfeel on this,
Mhm.
this, you say it's a neutral French oak. That gives it the depth without
Mhm.
giving this overriding, oak a
Yeah,
push and influence, right? But it
you're
gives it depth,
100%.
and yeah, and the mouth feels fantastic. And if I can just piggyback on what you said about the window that you have, can we just say this was probably on the vine 5 or 6 months ago? No,
Well,
2023.
this
Let's
is a
go a
23.
little longer.
Yeah, this is a 23. And because of the reduced cooperage, the time in bottle was necessary. And you're right. You're absolutely 100% correct. The oak being neutral gave it some a backbone, and it gave it some
Mhm.
viscosity and some
Some
yummy mouth,
structure. Yeah.
but not a lot of like pounding you with a big stick of butter or a big trunk of oak. It doesn't impart a lot of its flavor into the wine, which in my humble opinion is a very good thing, because with Bordeaux white wines, as you know, Chardonnay can very quickly and easily be overdone. That is to say, if it's over oaked, then you feel like you've just eaten a tree trunk or a cube of
Sure.
butter. Or right. And I have to be honest, even for Chardonnays that are done in stainless, I sometimes feel like I just got my braces tightened.
The
So
fruit is that overwhelming.
the fruit is not the main attraction. And
Right.
we have such incredible fruit at Dineen that we always want that to be the main attraction.
Front and center. Yeah.
Front and
I
center.
will say, I think I'm no different than many people's wine journey. We like when I got in 24 years ago or whatever, and these Butterbomb shards that were really good, and then my pendulum swung over to stainless, and now I love stainless just fine. I'm not a big fan of the Butterbombs, but if you're on oak on a Chardonnay, as long as there's balance to it, in fact, if there's balance to it, I just absolutely love it.
Mhm.
I am not one of those camps that's ABC, anything but Chardonnay, but I want to just everything. I want to try everything. And that's what we try to get our listeners to understand. Are there times where you don't want to have to think about it and you just want to pull what you kind of know off the shelf? Get it? Sure, do that all the time. But don't be afraid to grab those other varietals and give it a shot. And if you don't like it, maybe try another one because there's so many variables in making wine.
Oh my gosh, well, you're so right, because
Yeah.
it is fascinating. Here in the hills, we invited Paul Greggett from Wine Enthusiast was here to do a Let's Be Franc event. And we had the opportunity to invite all of the people, which are a lot, that source Cabernet Franc from our, we'll be tasting next, but from our vineyard. And I am here to tell you that these vintages varied by 2 years, and also that the varietal was all of the Cab Franc from the very few vineyards just adjacent to us. And I tasted 50. I think I told you a funny story. I tasted 50 of the wines. Yeah. At the end of the night, I didn't want to miss anything. So I was literally posted up in front of the kitchen sink, just swirling, tasting, and spitting as my previous winemaker taught. And they ran the gambit. And so you are 100% correct. If people taste one wine and they think that is the way that all wines taste, but the vineyards are so varied, and it's all in the winemaker's hands.
Yep, everything.
So if you have the great luck to have a winemaker who listens to the fruit and brings the fruit in themselves at just the right amount of time, and knows exactly how they can just bring them to fruition, then you're a lucky duck.
So let's be honest. If you're looking to try multiple Chardonnays, you'll have that. There are so many to choose from. Cabernet Sauvignon, so many to choose from. Merlot, so many to choose from.
Yep.
And then we start stepping down. Sauvignon Blanc, you still have a lot, but not as many. And then Sémillon, so Tannat Day is coming up in the middle of April. And it's hard to find more than 2 or 3 Tannats on the market, okay? And so something like a Sémillon, it's not always easy to find a whole lot of them out there. I know Almaviv has a really nice Sémillon. I'm trying to remember who else. I think Eternal makes one. Brad does, but I can't remember. So, I mean, you start having reduced selection, and that's kind of too bad.
It is too bad. Yeah, we're lucky because we do grow a fair amount of Sémillon, and it is a lesser known varietal, but it is such an overlooked varietal. But you're 100% right. When you find in working in the wine business the last 20 years, in training multiple humans, one of the first things that I would hope that I would have hired somebody with a SOM or a Wesset or something, but if not, and if I were training them from scratch, I would say, here's the wine Bible, and the wine Bible is designate. You pick a varietal and then you just do a deep dive, which is what I did when I was going professional in the wine biz. I just categorized, went through every varietal and did a deep dive about the regions. And then that is your post and your pathway. Which region do I want to try now? Which cooperage do I want to try now? How do I want to experience this one wine?
I want to talk a little bit about the Wesset, but after the break. But before the break, I want to talk about our wine word of the week. Our friends at the Cuvée app down in Napa. Cuvée app wine word of the week is, and you know what? This is where I even miss Shelley more. I think it's Petrichor, Petrichor. And since we're at March 21st, and gosh, we have got warm weather coming up 6, 7, 8 weeks. We've had a little stretch of kind of good weather, and then it's a little chillier, as spring will have it. But when true spring comes in, Petrichor refers to the distinctive scent that occurs when rain falls on dry soil or rocks, often associated with vineyards after a spring shower. I felt that was apropos given the time of year, given that you're in a state winery. This term captures the essence of the natural environment and the impact of weather on the vineyard. And I really, really kind of like this word. It's not necessarily a wine word, but like I said, given the time of year, it's kind of we're going to see that a lot. And there is a smell. There is a smell.
There is 100% a smell.
Yeah.
And you know what's so fascinating is I came to know this smell early in my life because I was raised in the desert Southwest, and when the rain would fall, I remember very distinctly going out as a child and just being like, I could not get enough. It's intoxicating. And I had some guests this morning that were from a faraway lands, and I said, I know you guys need to get to your next stop, but please let me take you for a little short jaunt through the vineyard because it's right here at our place. We are in fact in the vineyard, and just the smell of spring. And I was waxing poetic about the tiniest little tidbits of the start, which look like base of the shoot, look like
the little nubs. It's about to start ready to push.
Yeah, they look like little bunny tails, for lack of a better term, and they're just teeny. And I was getting so excited about it, and I looked up to see my guests look at me like, do you think she's okay? But I was just so delighted by early spring and its particular essence. Yeah.
And now we're all crossing our fingers that we don't get a hard frost for 4 days, right?
Yeah, we'll just keep our fingers crossed. Yeah.
Well, once those leaves start pushing, then we're out of that phase, and then of course we've got the bud break, and then we have another that we want to get through, and it's just so much
abrasion, and then we want to get on and on it goes, and it's just ever changing, and it's such a treasure to be able to work in a place where you can take guests out and say, here's the phase we're in, and here's, you're standing in the middle of this block, and and
have that Sémillon in their glass, and they're looking at the vines that produce the Sémillon, right? There's just something very magical about that. I'm from Seattle, so rain to me, it's got less magic than sometimes, but still in the summer here in Coeur d'Alene, when we've had a stretch of 2 or 3 weeks and everything's dry, and then you get that pounding of rain, and then the sun comes out. Oh, it's the best. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to actually do a mini vertical on Phil's favorite varietal, Cabernet Franc. Welcome back to Wine Time Fridays with Shelley and Phil. That's Shelley. Just what everybody wants, more Phil. Not really, but we're here with Susan Brown, the GM at Dineen Vineyards, who we were turned on by these wines. We actually, it's 6-7 weeks ago, we featured your two wines, the white blend and the red blend. And I can never remember the name of it's clearly
Condriesse. It's named thus and so for a region in France where they grow a lot of Rhone style varietals. That would be Marsanne, Roussanne, Viognier. Condriesse is 50-50 Roussanne, Viognier, and it's just, again, a beautiful, delicate, right on the knife's edge. You can have it with it or without food. And then I think you had the Vintners blend, right, Phil?
We did. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was fantastic. And it blew us away, especially because the price point. Not everything should be price driven, but this day and age when, let's face it, wine sales are suffering. And the price point that's suffering the most are probably wines over $20-25. So the key is to try to get that QPR to where the value is so good that it tastes like double what you pay for it. That's what those wines were to us. And I said, we need to get Dineen on for a full scale guest appearance and feature. And so Susan was not at all reluctant. She was very excited, and we like that. Ah.
There it is.
I
There
try
it is.
to time the exclamation point.
Well done.
I have my moments, not many of them. This is a 2022 Dineen Vineyards Cabernet Franc.
It certainly is. Oh, 2022. What a plush year. So I was listening intently when Marissa was talking about 2022 vintage, and because she is primarily focused on the fruit and the buyers and things of that nature, and up on this property and grew up on this land, she's very much in tune with the different years and the vintages. I'm going to tell you that 22 I've been describing as plush, round, red velvet curtain. It's extremely generous. It leads with fruit, I think, the 22. A bit on the different side, not in a bad way, but just different than the 21. So it's a bit counterintuitive, which I thought would be fun for your Phil, for this podcast, because the 21 Franc and the 22 Franc are completely different. I think logic would say that the older the varietal, the bolder, the smoother, the more plush and ready to drink. And in the case of 21 and 22, that's just flip-flopped. And this is not only, I've tasted a fair amount. I've had to prove my theory. And so started popping some 21s and 22s from other places, and I'm finding the same thing. The reason is the harvest in 2022 was just, it yielded grapes. I always say berries, grapes that were so big and just so full of flavor and so juicy. And so, they smelled, even coming into the crush pad, like your grandmother was making preserve, and the fruit was just breaking down into the sugar, and you just kind of smelled that richness. 21 was a different animal. 21 is a bit more a tiny. We had a lot, but they were tiny. They were a little not constricted, but a little bit more reticent to give up their flavor. Now the 21s are going to be a great year to cellar because of that, in my humble opinion. But I'm sorry, I'm going on.
No. So, at the store, you see these huge strawberries.
Yes.
And they're about as bland as they can come, right?
Oh,
and then
sure.
You pick a strawberry at home, and they're not nearly as big, but they're juicy and flavorful. What you're saying is the grapes, when they're big like that, they still have some super taste, right? As opposed to the small, like, a petite Syrah is so little, and all that, everything is in that little berry, right? But that's not necessarily the case. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I think you're right on the money. I think the 22s for me were just so, the first thing that I always recognized during the 22 harvest, during the 22 production year, and now drinking the 22 wines, is just big, bold fruit. So with your strawberry analogy, it was kind of in reverse. I think the 21s, I understand the wild strawberries that are tiny are so much more flavorful. You're right. But these big, bold 22s just give me so much. I think that they're extremely drinkable right now. In fact, I did a little bit of took the 22s and put them into my drink right now, and put the 21s, and was like, I'll see you in 3 to 5 years. Right. Have a nice little rest. So I think that I had this conversation with some guests yesterday, and I said, if you're drinking this bottle right, I fell in love with the Cab Franc, as most people do here in the Rattlesnake Hills and here at Dineen. But I said, if you're having the 22 for dinner this evening, that's great. But if you want something to cellar, I would highly recommend the 21, which is going to be just as beautiful, but is going to need a little more time to show you its true colors.
This, it's taken a little time to open up. I actually mistakenly opened up the Heritage the first time. Now, that big pop was the Heritage,
Well,
and then I realized, and so I did a soft pop on this. So as not,
this is no time at all. I can tell you that I'm sniffing the 22, and it's about all I want to smell for the rest of my life. It's so plush and so round and just so oh my goodness. It's just.
Did you say red velvet curtain on the nose?
I did.
That is such an awesome profile, because anybody who's been in anything to do with theater, I'm telling you, you walk by the curtain, you smell it, and then you put your face to it, like, oh, that's years of production living in this curtain,
And there's just there's a weight to it, there's a weight to that red velvet curtain. It's a whole different thing than, say, a knobby old linen curtain would be light and bright and fresh and breezy. But a red velvet curtain has a certain amount of weight and to it. And I think that's what I get with the 22, just that round, full, I mean business.
I love it. I really should have 2 glasses here, but I don't. And I'm too lazy to go up and get another one. And so I'm going to pour the 21 here in a moment. But this thing, I mean, this is a gorgeous wine. Gorgeous color, great legs. The nose continues to open up even more. I think give this thing 30 minutes. And it would really come into its own.
Well, what's interesting is I actually have the time to sit down and sniff through this as we're chatting. And my grandfather, who introduced me to wine, would say to me, you can get as much enjoyment out of smelling wine as you can as drinking it. And so I had a 1-to-1 ratio growing up. With smelling my wine and then drinking water, trying to be a little more disciplined. But as I'm drinking this 22 Cabernet Franc, it's shifting from that plush, plummy, almost a plummy, fruit preserve richness. And now it's giving me a little more minerality on the nose, to be quite frank.
I see what you did there. Aren't you funny? I love it. I feel like I should give you a dad joke now.
Gosh. Well,
now that Shelley's not here to roll her eyes and stare at me, this 21, I had to work getting that that cork out. But I persevered. I don't give up easily. This is the 2021 Dineen Vineyard. I will pour this now. And then I feel like I need to give you a dad joke.
Oh, goodness. Well, I am sitting down.
I feel like, you're going to like this one. Right now, all that click that you hear are all the people clicking away from the podcast because of dad. I give my daughter one every day. So I've got them ready to go. Like a horse walks into a bar, the bartender says, "Hey," the horse says, "Sure." So, I mean,
I love it.
Yeah. And this one is, I got a good rating from both my daughter and son-in-law with this yesterday. It's a 5-minute walk from my house to the bar, but 45 minutes to walk from the bar to my house. The difference is staggering.
Oh, bum.
I was waiting for the rim shot. Thank you.
There it is. There she is. Oh my God.
I love it. I just had to. So we were talking about smelling wine, the nose of the wine. A podcast is not a great platform when you get a wine such as that, because nobody wants to hear you smelling the wine, right? But I will tell you, Yeah, but I will tell you this. There are wines that are so good on the nose. And we tell people, put your nose in, man. Don't just like
Sure. Don't
no.
be shy.
Put that nose in, right? And just get
Mhm.
everything. If you're having trouble getting something, put your hand over the top, give it a nice little, as we say, twirl, and you'll get more because you're dropping those perfumes in there, right? The bouquet. I sometimes can go 20 minutes before I sip the dang wine.
100%. You're not wrong. Yeah. I had a period in my life where I was headed over to the coast quite regularly, and I would always purchase a $25 glass of Pinot Noir, and my husband was always kind of roll his eyes at me, but it was just my one glass of the evening, and I would have it for the entire evening and just groove on how much it changed from opening and having it in my glass to the end of the evening. And but yeah, the way a wine smells is really one of the I think underappreciated features of wine.
When you went to the coast to have that, was that the Metropolitan Grill? Because they were pouring pretty good glasses of Pinot.
Yeah, Metropolitan Grill does. No, it was at oh gosh, I want to say, oh, I can't remember the name of the restaurant now, and I would like to give it a shout out because Charlize Theron used it as the set of one of her movies. I'll think of it.
Okay, so
Tidal Raves. Tidal Raves.
What is it?
Yeah, Tidal Raves. Yeah.
Oh, I had not heard of Tidal Raves. Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They'll make the show notes. Look down below. Tidal Raves.
Yeah, they were right there on the, and it was just they had a lot of anyway, on back to Washington, back to the Rattlesnake Hills.
So we have a number of decanters in this house. We have a lot of people that know that we have a wine podcast, know we're into wine, know we really enjoy wine, and wonder what our favorite like little gadgets are, and we just don't use many gadgets. And so we have a lot of decanters that just don't get used. And partly it's because I love to taste the evolution over time rather than decant and get that, I guess, the curve up faster. I'm okay with going slow at it, but how are you on something like that?
Well, I think that two things about that. I think that there is always a call for decanting some wines. Some wines definitely just need to be decanted. I read in Somm Journal a bazillion years ago, there was an article about somebody who, so let me tell you a story of my household. I have this dorky old orange juice, but it's a glass container from the 50s that my mom gave me. It's very wide mouthed. And then I have my beautiful, sexy Riedel decanter that I would pop on my table. But I would always open a bottle of red wine, put it in the orange juice glass, perfectly clean, and then pour it into the second decanter, because oxygen, giving oxygen and space for a wine, the more time you have, and it accomplishes that task in the pouring. So if you're pouring together. And so in this Somm Journal, it said that this gent had utilized a milk jug, to which I said, there's never a call for that. I can't believe you're a Somm. Show me your credentials. No, I'm just kidding. But
unless it's a glass jug, back to the 60s. Yeah,
I agree with you. It has to be glass. It has to be perfect.
Plastic, please. Can we just say?
But you don't need much. You just need a perfectly clean glass vessel, and then maybe one really, sexy decanter. But it is definitely just giving oxygen, and I think giving time to a wine and enjoying, as you said, to your point, enjoying the evolution is so vitally important. And I'm so excited because Marissa Dineen is over in your neck of the woods now quite a bit, because we have distribution in in Idaho. And
Yep.
so she spends a fair amount of time stumping and really spending some time with people tasting our wine. And I think that these are the kind of tastings that we need to go to. What you're doing here is fabulous because you're giving space and time to really enjoying and savoring wine.
So 2 things. First of all the wines that we're drinking tonight, if they're not on the shelves at Pilgrim's Market, she can get them. Go talk to Sarah and she can get them. And she's happy to do that. So feel free to go do that. Pilgrim's was one of our sponsors last week, but not this week. And then to the decanter, we have got a decanter that was given to us as a gift from our neighbors who, ironically enough, Brenda and Matt own CDA Gourmet, one of our sponsors of the podcast. Again, not today's episode, but it's so beautiful. It's got a big base. We've actually had that on early in the episode 2025 on video, and you just twirl it and it just slowly swirls the wine, and it's such a there you go. That's right, you feel it, Susan. It's such a conversation piece to have on the table as it's going around, and that's so much fun. And then of course you pick it up. It's a production to pour it. So there's certainly a time and a place for decanting wines. And anyway, I just had to throw that in because it's I think we still have that out. I don't know if we're going to put that away. We're going to have it out because it's such a conversation piece.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that brings up a great point, Phil, because in today's, not to wax political, but I think that there is a little bit of pushback to what's going on in the market, certainly, and what's going on with the lobby and the controversy over alcohol.
A disclaimer on every bottle of wine. I think we missed the boat on that. People that drink wine such as this are not drinking to get drunk, and that's
right.
I think they're missing.
Exactly. And I think that you've made a great point, because we do need to differentiate between wine and spirits. And wine is meant for what Marissa Dineen always says is the vines bring us closer to each other, because we are doing what you say, enjoying the pomp and circumstance of decanting a wine, sitting down, looking at each other in the eyeballs, and really making time to talk to each other. Yeah.
I might even say that this wine also brings us closer to Mother Earth as well, in a really weird, abstract way. You're drinking the fruits that came out of the soil, right?
That's exactly it. So wine brings us closer to nature and closer to each other. Yeah, absolutely. Closer to nature and to each other. And I think that's a story that needs to be told, because in every culture known to man, there are these rituals around beverage, whether it is tea ceremony in Japan or decanting a wine and spending time with family and friends and spending time connecting. So yeah, I agree.
Tradition, all of that. And in Europe they get it right, to sit down with a meal that everybody helped prepare, and it's a 3 or 4 hour affair. But we don't do a lot of that in the States, and it's kind of sad. By the way, when we do, it's a lot of fun. We have had people over. We got a raclette, a grill. And if you know what that is, a raclette grill, it uses raclette cheese, but everybody put their own, it's this grill that's cut into 4 quadrants, and everybody cooks their own stuff while you're having a conversation, while you're having a glass of wine, and you cook at your own pace, your own desired, cooking. And it is so much fun. And it's 2 or 3 hours. It's funny. some of our guests would say, "This is great. Come over and have to cook our own dinner." It's like, yes, you do, Stan Tebow, not to mention any names. But now they have one. Now they have one, and they use it all the time
Yeah.
too. But it's the community, right? It's community.
That's
it's community.
the community. Wine is wine community. It's heritage. It's family. It's Mother Nature, and it's really such a lovely, lovely, lovely tradition. And I think that I don't know that everyone appreciates or knows the difference between, there's certainly time for a vodka soda, specifically at a lawyerly function, as my husband would say. But I feel like it's for me, wine is signals to me a great opportunity to slow down and really be present and connect. And to really be present and connect, you don't want to be 3 sheets to the wind.
No. And when you start forgetting and lose control, that's no fun for anybody. Let me just say this. When we were setting up this episode, I may or may not have been suggestive as would love to taste both of these Cab Francs, because I don't think the 2021 is available anymore. Or if it is, it's in a library where you have to kind of belly up to the bar and make friends with whoever's pouring that day at Dineen, and who knows if they may pull something out. The 2022 is available, $42 at the winery. That 21, I am so happy that you sent it. This is exquisite.
It is. You are absolutely right. Absolutely right. It is exquisitely it is exquisite, and the reason is because you taste the vineyard, and this is the only place that you can do that. And the other thing I would say about that is we keep only 20% of what we make, and so I think that we don't make a huge amount of wine, but we like to play, and we do like to do a lot of fun things with the varietals that we have. So when we make wine, it's not something that's ever going to be around for forever. Yeah. We want to keep it a long time in library, but and we want to do verticals like we're doing with you. Sure. But we also only have just such a limited production, and the tasting room here at Dineen Vineyards is the only place you can taste through the entire vineyard. But yeah, it's exquisite, and it's so fascinating to be able to show people, the different vintages and how they play off of each other, and how vastly different they are, and how dynamic the whole process is.
So, are these both 100%?
Yes, they are. So they are 100% Cabernet Franc, correct? So
and same block and everything. So all the wines.
Yes. So I will say that Catherine's block for the 21 and 21 months on in new and once used French oak, and then the 22 was a little bit less. So that was 20 months, and that was neutral. Just because we have our winemaker listens to what that particular vintage needs, and
sure.
And the 22 was just, it was almost percolating right there on the crush pad. And then the 21, we were like, come on, give us a little more love. But speaking of heritage, all of the blocks are named for Patrick Dineen's family members, who Patrick Dineen was the patriarch of our operation. So
this 21 and the 22 and 21 are really very different. And what I'm hearing you saying, a lot of it is the vintage difference. But again, this one's had an extra year, and this 21 is ultra silky, ultra smooth, drinking very well right now. Did you say it was the 22 that needs to be laid down a little bit, right?
Well, actually the reverse. So the 21
Okay.
is very silky and very smooth, but I would
Yeah.
say that the 21 needs to have a little more cellaring time because the tannic profile is still kind of a little bit too vibrant, I think.
To me, I'm not getting
I,
it.
I wouldn't say
Yeah.
too vibrant, but it will last the test of time, and it will really become even more collected and even more into its own. The 22 being so juicy and so full and red velvet curtain. You know, Phil, I have been drinking a bunch of 22 red wines from this neck of the woods
Yeah. Yeah.
because they are just so ready right now in a way, I would say.
Voluptuous.
Voluptuous, yeah. So
Yeah.
the 22s are your red velvet curtain. The 21s are a little bit shy and but they're very balanced and collected. And I get a lot more minerality on the 21. What do you think?
I am completely captured by the 21.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that 21 is a warm blanket, electric blanket
Yeah.
that has been on number 8, and I just have it over me,
I
and
love
it's
it.
just keeping me nice and snugly warm and cozy. That's what that 21. The 22 is one that's kind of saying, "Please like me." And
Yeah.
I think
Mm-hmm.
as this opens up, that it's fantastic. The structure on the 22 is right there, but that 21 is just like giving me a nice little massage on the neck. I'm loving it. I am
Well,
absolutely loving that.
yes, absolutely. And the 21 is really such a great representation of the fruit that comes from our vineyard and the way that we make wine. Because I feel like we have, because of our elevation and because of our diurnal temperature shift, we
Yeah,
do
yeah,
have just that little bit of lighter body, and lighter body is really just like we were talking about white wines, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. When you have a lighter body red wine, you don't have a lot of room to wiggle. You've got, it's everything is right there on the
yeah.
surface, just
Yep.
ready to show you its true colors. So I think the 21 is beautiful. It's very collected. It's very I like the word silky. I agree with you there. And boy, is it beautiful.
It's
Uh,
fantastic. We're going to
it's a,
take one more break. When we come back, we're going to move to a blend.
yes, perfect.
Welcome back to Wine Time Fridays, episode 257 with Susan Brown of Dineen Vineyards. This is March 21st. We're marching right through the first month of 2 Washington wine months. This is the third week, and we are just so pleased. Dineen Vineyards, am I right? Susan makes somewhere around 2,500 cases annually, give or take?
Yeah, give or take. We bring in about 20 acres of fruit and keep for ourselves. We are all estate grown, and our claim to fame is we source all of our fruit that we grow to other. I always like to say the cool kids on the west side and
Yeah,
Columbia
sure.
River Gorge and all of the other places. And yeah, we have quite a few different wines. In fact, I was just adding them up with the addition of the club releases coming out. We have about 13 with some fun one-offs. We've got a Grenache Blanc
Nice.
coming down the pike, Petit Verdot coming down the pike, which will just be released to our club. And so we've got some really, really unique and delicious wines that not a lot of places have, as you were speaking to with the Sémillon. So
Is your Petit Verdot 100%?
Yeah, so we like to keep classic and keep pure, and it's not to say that we might not see the need for a blending grape, and that's a pretty traditional thing in the world of winemaking. And so you have a Sancerre that goes into a Rhone blend, or a Petit Verdot that goes into a
Bordeaux, yeah.
Bordeaux, right? But as its own varietal and as a single varietal, I think it's very, very interesting.
We have tasted through your 23 Sémillon, $27 at the winery. We have tasted through the 22 Cab Franc, $42 at the winery.
Correct.
We have tasted through the 21 Cab Franc, no longer available unless somebody super nice. They just, who knows what might happen. All Bordeaux varietals. Wait, the Sémillon is Rhone varietal.
So Bordeaux for Sémillon as well. You are correct.
Okay, got it. We are now going to open the Heritage Red Blend, which by opening now, didn't open now at all. Opened about 25 minutes ago, errantly. And this is $47 at the winery. And I've already poured it in my glass. But I feel like we haven't toasted since that first toast. So I'm just going to go #cheersing.
Cheers.
So a red blend is where the winemaker really gets to have some fun.
Oh my goodness, they just go crazy. And this is all in the Bordeaux varietals. It's a very yummy blend, I would say. And 34% Cab Sav, 28% Cab Franc, 21% Merlot, 14 Malbec, and 3% Petit Verdot. So there's your little finisher. All harvest from our sustainable vineyard between October 5th and September 7th, 22. It was actually fermented in stainless steel, then barrel aged.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, for 20 months in French oak. It is on the knife's edge as a wine because this wine is so luscious. It gives me all the feels. It is all at once plush and round and just such a wonderful food wine. But the weight and the body of wine is so delicate in a way that it really does showcase the varietals and their specific deliciousness. It's not overpowered by the weight on the tongue, but the mouthfeel is quite viscous and plush as well. So this is my go-to that very rare occasion that there is some sort of red meat on my table, and it has stood the test of time to stand up to almost anything that I throw at it. My grandmother's coq au vin loves it. It loves a good pot roast, and it's just it's such a good, can you imagine? A little corned beef and cabbage as we are.
Hey, we just had St. Patrick's Day on last Monday, so
last Monday, that's right.
So I'm on a quest here because there are 6 varietals that you could grow in Bordeaux. One of them they no longer grow, right? I am do you grow any Carmenere there?
We do not.
I am so ready for a Washington winery to do the Bordeaux blend and have Carmenere as well, because they don't put it in Bordeaux. They got rid of all of it because of phylloxera. And wouldn't it be kind of fun? I don't know of a winery that's doing that.
Well, there are a few in Washington State, and March is Washington State Wine Month. And so hats off to Washington State Wine and all they do to support us, because boy, do we appreciate them and all they do. But
Yep.
there are a few smallish wineries and wine estates such as ourselves that are venturing out into those lesser known varietals. Mm-hmm.
Well, there's some Carmenere being grown, but I don't know if I'm seeing any Bordeaux blend that's including Carmenere. And
Interesting.
yeah, yeah, I don't know. I'm probably what is it? Tilting windmills. I don't even know what that means, but
Well, yeah, it's a great reference, and I think that you can most certainly find it if you do a little deep dive in a search. But we try to remain very, very true to working within the confines of our estate vineyard and what we have available. Um, so it just is a very interesting lifestyle because
yeah,
growing estate fruit, it really gives you some very comforting parameters. And
you're in
it's
complete control.
yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yep,
And it's really fabulous because to me, I'll tell you a little true story. My first audit that I had here, I was very concerned and I was grabbing all the, financial information and all of that jazz. And what they really wanted to know, Phil, was how do we treat our employees? How are we making sure
wow,
that our vineyard workers are getting all the breaks that they need and all of the things that the new laws had on the books. And what I said is, goodness gracious, I'm the one that's putting, carrying ice out there. And we're very, very sustainability means to us that we care for our people and we care for the people who are growing our food and our fruit. And
right.
yeah, they wanted to know about that and our safe water practices. So I felt at that moment in time, about 6 months into my tenure here, that I was at the right place
Sure.
because it's a
It
value
was
system.
already happening. You were already doing it.
Right. But
Yeah,
it's a value system, really, for
sure.
lack of a better descriptor.
I love that. This is very, very good. And when you taste a red blend, now you're getting so many different components to it, right?
Oh my.
I'm guessing this heritage blend changes from vintage to vintage.
It does. It
Okay.
changes not very dramatically, but it does change, and it changes as the winemaker sees fit. And it changes because it really is something that we take a lot of pride in, because being a family owned multi-generational vineyard and winery, heritage means a lot to us. But it's like a great team, right? It's like a
Right.
great team of or family or workforce or
Mhm.
what have you. We're all made better for the sum of our parts.
Right.
And I think that that is so vital. I really do. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, first of all, what's the name of your wine club? Every winery has a name for their wine club.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked. So we started with a lot of different funny little wine clubs. Well, shouldn't say funny, but we started with a lot of diverse wine clubs, and we've recently, and I do mean like right now, in the process of kind of shifting, because I feel very strongly that wine is, for most of us, it's a luxury item. And I feel like people need to be able to really know where their wine is grown and really be able to choose what they want. And while we try to give our wine club members taste of the entire vineyard, we also want them to choose their own adventure and have their own tastes. taste buds met. But we have a 6-bottle club and a 12-bottle club that is twice annual. And I love the twice annual because so it's block and vineyard, and the 6-bottle club block is 6 bottles twice annually, and then you've got 12 bottles twice annually.
Right.
Myself, I love to support young and striving winemakers, which informs the majority of the clubs that I support. But I will be honest, every quarter I'm like, again, so I think that the
twice a year, it is interesting. Yeah,
it is. So I like to have, I like to give people a little bit of breathing space, and then all the benefits that comes with club membership. We do a lot of wholesale case direct on the Vintners blend that you were mentioning yesterday that you tried first. And
yeah.
So we like to give our club members a lot of love and high touch.
So you mentioned something that this is happening right now. There's something else happening right now. I mean, this is brand spanking new, like very new, within 10, 12 days new. You have a new winemaker.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought that up.
Brian Mackey.
Brian Mackey. And if I could be so bold as to tell you what his contact is in my phone, I have him. I have him under Brian.
Does your husband know about this, first of all?
Well, and unique that you should ask that. Same name. I have him under Brian Wine Royalty.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Because he came over from a very small winery to you guys, right? Like one that nobody's heard of.
Yeah, micro winery called Chateau Saint Michel. Maybe you've heard of it.
Yeah.
But he's grown up literally grown up in the wine industry and on a wine farm. And so it's really, I think the trajectory of his life would tell you that he wanted to be some other things, but home called him. And he's so incredibly he's like a good blend. He's so balanced. I just am in awe because he has all of the components that makes such a good maker. Absolutely disciplined and clean as a whistle, and really has all of the basics, well in hand, but has such vision and such an amazing artistry and flair about him. So we're tickled pink and cannot wait to start working with him. Yeah,
his first vintage will be a 25 vintage. Yes,
that's absolutely true. And another funny little story. The other morning, I was sneaking out with my Italian my Italian coffee maker, my espresso maker, and my husband said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Well, I may or may not be taking this to our new winemaker because I
may. By the way, as an aside, anybody who knows me says, I say this all the time. I may or may not, which usually means
we're kindred spirits there, Phil. And my husband said, "What am I going to do without my?" without my latte. And I looked at him like, it doesn't matter. We have a winemaker that needs his Italian espresso and his needs will be met. So, we're just delighted, and he'll be a remarkable team player and a remarkable asset. And
so exciting.
So exciting to see what this next chapter brings for us, because as I mentioned before, we're distributing more than we ever had in Idaho and other places, and so excited to bring Washington State wine and the Hills wine to the world. So very exciting.
So interesting. We talk about Robert Mondavi really California, right? Getting California on the map and raising that every around. They're kind of the ones that blaze that trail. And Chateau Saint Michel, you gotta say, man, they are the ones that brought Washington wine onto the scene nationally. There are plenty of wineries in and around, but Chateau Saint Michelle really is the one that people have known over the years. Now, there are so many wineries in Washington State that are fantastic, but we have to pay homage to Chateau Saint Michelle, right?
We tell them thank you so much for real. You know, I may or may not to follow your lead. It's Friday night now. Have had guests from the Carolinas, and I said, what brings you to Washington State for wine? And they said very specifically, we cut our teeth on Chateau Saint Michelle and knowing Washington State wine. And, you know, that was really a gateway wine for so many people.
Johannesburg Riesling, right?
Exactly. I mean
back in the day.
Back in the day. And, you know, we honor our forefathers and those who've paved the way and whose shoulders we stand on today.
So it's interesting because Chateau Saint Michelle has given us all so much, but for you guys, they've given you something even a little better, and that is Brian Mackey.
That's right. That's right. And not only is he just an extraordinary, you know, he's one of those winemakers. You can't see me, but my chin is on my hands, and I'm just like, what would you do? You know, I'm just watching. Like he's a television just to gain everything he says. I feel like I sit at his feet just to hear what he's going to say about each different wine. But not only is he just, 100% great family man and just all around lovely guy. So he gets all the Italian coffee that he wants.
Perfect. We're going to take one last break. When we come back, we're going to do a little business and get some knowledge about some things.
Sure.
Welcome back to Wine Time Fridays, episode 257 on March 21st with Susan Brown, GM of Dineen Vineyards, who has come in like a lion into the North Idaho market with their wines. And if you haven't had a wine from Dineen, go to Pilgrims. I believe Sarah's got 2 of them on the shelf, but any of these other than the 21 Cab Franc that has sounded interesting to you, which I would say, just ask Sarah. She'll bring it in. No problem. I wanted to ask about your Adopt a Vine program.
Oh, well, thank you for asking. You know, Adopt a Vine is really event-based, and we have, speaking of honoring our vineyard crew, who is incredibly talented, we created early on, because we have the vineyard right here, an event where people get to hear how we prune and care for our vines. They get their own vine. There's a row of vines that leads from the tasting room winery to out into the greater vineyard. Their name is on the vine. They get a cutting from that vine, which my brother is growing in the Columbia River Gorge. They get to witness one of our own, who we call Edward Scissorhand affectionately.
Because of their pruning skills?
The skills are incredible of this skilled workforce. We honor them so greatly. And, you know, people who come to this are just in awe. But we have wine club members who come throughout the season, and every time they come, they visit their vine and they see cool. Yes, we have a wine club member who I won't mention, but she took photos every time she came, which was average about once a month, and boy, those photos were fabulous. And it's just a way of sharing our beautiful vineyard with our people and our wine club members. And we hope that they'll propagate and they'll plant just for fun or otherwise. We hope that they'll see what is what's happening here in the vines, and come and visit them from you know, throughout time. So it's a fun event that is at the end of the week.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
unique.
And it's not the only event that we do in the vineyard. So we tend to, as you probably surmise, get a little bit geeky about things here. And we love taking people out into the vines and showing them. I try to coerce people. Even today, this poor gal from the Carolinas had a blanket. We have blankets here in the taster. She had a blanket wrapped around her.
Sure. I
But,
mean,
like, you
for
gotta see
anybody who's been anywhere in and around a winery, you're going to probably encounter those temps between 58 and 65 degrees, which
That's
is
right.
kind of chilly, you know, but the wine doesn't need to cook. We need to keep it at a certain stable temperature, right?
Well,
So
we do care more about the temperature for the wine and the
yeah.
vines than we care about the temperature for the humans. To be
Well,
honest.
and so, you know, a year ago in January, so January 2024, Shelley and I went to North Star for their blending experience. That was that weekend that here in Coeur d'Alene, we hit minus 15 degrees. And over in your neck of the woods, it was anywhere from minus 8 to minus 12 or something like that. And we were the only ones that showed up for this tasting experience. It was her Christmas present. And so we were out in the vineyard when it was minus 8 degrees.
Sure.
I don't believe I had shorts on that day, but I mean, I've been known to have shorts on when it's minus 8. But you know, it's so fun to go out in the vineyard when everything is dormant and you know, there's snow and it's cold, and you hope that those temps don't go on for too long, because then you do damage to the vines. But I think they came out of it okay. That was a tough year for me, you know.
Yeah, definitely a tough year. If they're dormant, then they're probably doing just fine. But yeah, we had a blending party here around December, and I was giving the memo to people to dress warmly, and I had I had a gentleman that was so cute. He goes, "I'm so glad you told me that," and but I only wore my what did he call my city long johns. And I said,
"Well, to the country long johns.
We're in the country here. You probably need 2 pairs of city long johns.
You do.
Country long
How about
johns.
your Saturday supper club?
Yeah, Saturday Supper Club is a series that we have with one of our amazingly talented local chefs, and I'm sorry to say that the first one is sold out. The second one is in April, and he's also doing a class. So he's doing a pasta making class in addition to Supper Club, and he's on site that entire weekend serving from your wood-fired oven. He serves anything from the sausages that he handcrafts, with the mustard that he makes, with the buns that he makes, to handcrafted pizzas that are just that are so unique and so delicious. And this is a gentleman I've been working with for years. And Jacob is a true foodie with a lot of, you know, and in this day and age, don't let a food truck fool you. These chefs are
right.
They're so good. They're amazing. They're amazing. He, in fact, at one point we were talking menu planning, and I looked down at my watch because I'm always thinking of time and money, and he said, and I realized he'd been talking for 20 minutes about mushrooms and microgreens, and so I said, you know, we need to move on and get some stuff done. But I appreciate the integrity. So you know, he's doing a series for us, and we're tickling. Yeah.
Do you have a link on your website for that coming up in April?
Yeah, we certainly do. And also
down in the show notes. In the show notes, there's a link. Go to it. Because, by the way, if you've not done one of these, they're fantastic. You get great wine and food pairings to begin with, and you learn a ton.
You do. And if I could tell you a little anecdote about Jacob, he came through the winery today completely, like 30 minutes out of his way, one way, just because he wanted to make sure that the amuse-bouche plate would fit on top of the wine glass. So he's to say that he's a culinary geek is an understatement. But yeah, it's a fun week. He's on site all weekend, and you can pass out my email address if anybody has any questions whatsoever or wants any of the wines that isn't at Pioneer Market. We'd be happy, or Pilgrim Market rather. We'd be pleased as punch to send them along.
Outstanding. The last question I have for you was the first question I put on my list, which is you sign your emails as WESET2. I've really only known it as the WSET2 or the WSET. What is the difference between the WSET and the WSET?
Well, it's really just the it's probably just the WSET. It's just it's a rigorous wine course, for lack of a better descriptor, and like the SOM degrees or levels, you just work your way through, and it's really fun to do because you get to dive in and test your mettle about how much knowledge you have for the whole wide world of wine, because there's so much wine throughout the world. And what surprised me about the WSET was how some of the questions were really comparing and contrasting the acidity of, let's say, a New Zealand Sauv Blanc to a French Sauv Blanc, and then this stuff. So you
California and Washington, sure.
Exactly. So there's a lot of knowledge that can be gained from a certification, and the SOM levels as well. SOM tends to lean into a bit of service, and those things are also important. But I like knowing, I like the knowledge of what wines around the globe, because a lot of our guests will come to us and say, I like I like this, and I like this, which tells me, oh, you're driven by bright and acidic, or you're driven by smooth and fluid and cozy wines. So it just broadens your ability to hone in on what our guests want, which is my primary function in life, is what our guests need and want, and what kind of experience they're looking for.
I just, when I feel like I have a grasp of some wines, I realize I don't. It's like I feel like a nice butter or good balanced Chardonnay, a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, one of my favorites, an Oregon Pinot Noir, very fruit forward and driven. I feel like I can identify those when I taste them, and then I do blind tasting, and I'm so wrong. And so it's just
so true.
You know, there's something to be said about blind tasting, because you force your senses to pick up the nuances, which you're not doing. You know, there's who's the guy from Monty Python is can't think of his name right now. John Cleese, right? He has a little 20-minute, 30-minute thing, and they do they do a tasting in a cup that you can't see the wine. You can only taste it.
Right.
And it's the same wine, okay? And so everyone tastes it. And so there's probably 20, 25 people there. And he says, raise your hand. How many people think that's a white wine? And half the people raise their hand. And then he says, how many people think that's a red wine? And half the people raise their hand. He says, well, half of you are right. It's the same wine. And so it's amazing, your senses and how important they are. I mean, we're looking at this. We see it already. So we're already way there, right?
Right.
But still, it's good to put me in my place and know I'm not anywhere near where I need to be.
Well, just the mention of John Cleese makes me giggle like a schoolgirl. But, it's true. There's two phrases I use often, which is the more you know you don't know. And and the other is wherever you go, there you are. And
that's right.
and you just it teaches you a level of trust in your own taste buds, which I really credit my first winemaker with giving me a lot of confidence. I would say my grandfather as well is, 6
Yeah.
years old, having to swill some Riesling.
Sure.
And so I think that it's just a fun, eye-opening experience. Wine, you just never get to the bottom of it. But the only thing to know, Phil, is if you like it, it's good.
Exactly. Do you like it or not? We've talked about some great comedians. Stephen Wright is one of my favorite, if you know Stephen Wright. But one of his jokes, and he's very dry, he speaks in monotone. I was at the store the other day. I bought powdered water, but I'm not sure what to add. That sort of thing, right?
Hilarious.
He says, no matter where you are, the temperature, that's room temperature, is where you are, is room temperature. This has been a lot. No, he's not wrong at all. This has been a lot of fun. I'm going to go real quick through this stuff. Some wines we enjoyed this week. The Mama Sin Cuvée Saint Pierre Chardonnay. Daryl Rex Groom Zinfandel. The Revora Grenache. Revora is a estate winery here in Idaho, making really good wines. The Great Oregon Wine Company Chardonnay, and Portlandia White Pinot Noir. Some things coming up in the future. We have Marcelin Day on the 26th. That's 5 days from now. Tannat Day, as we've already mentioned it, April 14th. International Malbec Day, yay, 17th of April. And International Viognier Day on the 25th. Coming up next week, Palencia Winery with Victor. I'm like 95% sure. He's a tough person to get a hold of. Thank you again to today's sponsors, Kestrel Vintners, Terrazzo Waterfront Grill, and Elsum Cellar. By the way, Terrazzo Waterfront Grill, their patio is open now. Go down and have a drink. Tell Wine Time Friday sent you. Susan, this has been fun. If Shelley was here, she would be slapping me because we've gone so long, but she's not here, and we just are going to go until as long as it takes.
Well, thank you so much for having us. It is just a real honor and a pleasure. And we're so honored to be invited into Pilgrim Market and to Idaho. And you folks are making some fabulous wine there. And we support you as well. And we thank you for shining a light on our little place and neck of the woods. And we welcome you to come and visit and reach out with any wine needs from Dineen.
Well, thank you for that. I just want to say, with a little bit of knowledge, wine becomes a lot less overwhelming. You have gotten a ton of knowledge today. Dineen Vineyards is just amazing. They're making amazing wines. They may be, quote, new to the block, but man, they're making great wines, absolutely great wines. And these that we tasted today, outstanding. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Have a great weekend. Susan, thank you again for coming. And we will see you next week with Victor Palencia.
Thank you for spending part of your day to wind down with Shelley and Phil. Remember, you can listen to any episode of the Wine Time Fridays podcast by visiting winetimefridays.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And join us on our Wine Time Fridays Facebook page, Instagram, or on Twitter, which is @VintageTweets, for daily conversation. Until next week, here's our toast to you. To health, wealth, abundance, gratitude, peace on earth, and of course, romance.